Happy last day of Chanukah, everyone. As you can see, it is a beautiful day here in South Florida. However, our brothers and sisters up north are dealing with a snowstorm. And it reminds me of the story how in 1966, the president of Israel, Zalman Shazar, came to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe. On a visit to America, he came to Brooklyn, New York, to 770 Eastern Parkway to see the Rebbe. And the Rebbe went outside to greet him. And it was a bitter, cold, freezing night. And when he encountered the Rebbe, he said to the Rebbe, "The Kelt schneit durch de Beiner," which in Yiddish means the cold cuts through the bones. It's a bone-chilling night. And the Rebbe smiled, and without skipping a heartbeat, the Rebbe said to him, "Auf dem is an neshama herabgekommen auf der Welt." That's why a soul comes into this world. What the Rebbe was saying to him is, yes, the world is filled with coldness. However, that's why God sent us into this world with our human soul, which is filled with light and fire, to warm up the coldness, to melt the ice of the world, and to create warmth, life, happiness, love, vitality, and goodness all around us. You know, there's a dispute in the Talmud whether you could light from one candle to the other of the menorah. And Rav, one great sage in the 2nd century, says you're not allowed to. Why? Because you weaken the mitzvah by using one candle to light another. It diminishes some of the oil and some of the wax, and therefore you're being makrish mitzvah, you're diminishing a mitzvah. However, Shmuel disagrees, and we follow his opinion that says, yes, you are allowed to light from one candle to the other, because we don't weaken the mitzvah, we increase the mitzvah. When we light other candles, we are creating more light around us. God gave us our neshama, which is the candle of God, as King Solomon says. And our task in this world is to kindle as many flames as we can, to create as much warmth and light in the world around us. And we do that by spreading goodness and love and kindness, and by showing courage like the Maccabees did, to stand up for what's right and for what is good. And therefore, whether the weather is sunny or whether the weather is freezing cold, we have the human potential to be human lights to illuminate the world around us. The 8th day of Chanukah is a bittersweet day. On the one hand, we're all looking forward tonight to the menorah being fully lit with all 8 candles. What could be more beautiful? Maximum light. But on the other hand, it's a little bit bitter because we know that after tonight we put away the menorah and we will not take it out until next year. However, the message of Chanukah is that no, we never put away the menorah, because every day, not just on Chanukah, but every day of our lives, we have to be human menorahs, and we have to kindle as much light, as many flames. When we meet people who are suffering, who are dealing with pain, with sadness, with darkness in their life, we have to kindle their flames, ignite their fire, their passion. And even ourselves, sometimes when we are feeling down, we have to ignite our own inner flame so we can shine brightly in this world. As the Rebbe said to President Shazar, that's why the soul came down into this world. I want to share with you a story told by a Holocaust survivor. Very powerful story. He was in Auschwitz-Birkenau, and he said that he was witnessing all the tragedies around him. His own parents were murdered in the camps, and he was looking very depressed. And an older man came over to him and said, "What happened? You look so sad today." He says, "My father just died of disease in the camp." And he said, "Listen, today is Chanukah. Chanukah is about how the Maccabees fought and overcame the darkness and prevailed. We will prevail over this darkness as well." And the man said that this young man said he was filled with an inspiration as he remembered Chanukah, and he said, "You know what, why don't we light a menorah here in the camp?" He said, "That's impossible," the old man said. "It's too dangerous." And the young man said, "I have an idea. I saw that there is a room where they oil the machines, the rifles. I could sneak in there and steal a little oil, and we'll take a little wick off our garment, we'll make a thread, and we'll light the menorah." And sure enough, the young man said he went to the oil factory where they were, the machine gun factory, and he snuck over there and took a little bit of oil, came back to the barrack, and he said, "Tonight we're going to light the menorah." They took a little thread from their garment, made a wick, but there was still one thing they needed, and that was fire. So they were thinking what to do, and they noticed that at the edge of the camp there was this fire burning with some smoldering flames. He said, you know what, we'll sneak over there tonight after the cover of darkness, and we'll ignite the candle with a little bit of oil to perform the mitzvah of menorah here in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And sure enough, he said, what happened was they snuck out at night from the barrack, and they made their way under the cover of darkness, and they reached this little fire at the edge of the camp. And as they were about to light it, they heard a shout, and they turned around, they saw an SS man, soldier had spotted them, and they knew that this man was particularly sadistic and cruel and evil, and they started to shudder. But just as the man started to approach him, this SS soldier got a call from one of his superiors who needed to call him over, and he had to leave immediately. They felt like a miracle had occurred. They ran back to the barrack and went back into the barrack to hide. And the young man said he was disappointed because they were so close to lighting the menorah, and in the last moment, his dream, his hope to light the menorah in Auschwitz-Birkenau was dashed. And he said the old man turned to him and said words that he'll never forget. He said, I want you to know that tonight in Auschwitz-Birkenau, we performed a miracle greater than the original miracle of Chanukah, because we lit the menorah here in Auschwitz without any fire, without any oil, without any wick. The Maccabees lit the menorah and it lasted 8 days, but they had oil, they had a wick, they had a menorah, they had fire, and it burned for 8 days. But we lit the 9th candle tonight, the invisible candle, the candle within our soul that we cannot see or touch, but exists within each and every one of us. We lit the menorah without any fire, and that's even a greater miracle than the Maccabees. Sadly, this young man said the older man did not survive the camps, but a few months later, the Soviets liberated Auschwitz. This man was freed from the camps, and he eventually made his way to Israel. And today he ignites the flames of the menorah with his beautiful family around him every year, and he tells this story, and he says, the message of Chanukah is that we have to kindle the 9th flame, that we should never be discouraged by whatever darkness we find around us, because we have the light from within with which we could ignite the darkness of the world and transform it into goodness. As we conclude this holiday of Chanukah, let us remember this beautiful message, and let us remember that no matter where we find ourselves and what circumstances we find ourselves in, especially in a year like this, God gave us the human light, the light of our soul that's within. It's the invisible 9th flame, and with it we can transform, and we will transform all the darkness of the world. Wishing everyone a final happy day of Chanukah, and let's take this light with us through all the days of the coming year. Chag Sameach.